Welcome to Episode 6 of the Aluminium Podcast, Apple News with a British accent. Every week I'll be joined by a different guest from the world of tech and beyond, bringing you the latest Apple and wider technology news, as well as insight into our guests and their stories in technology. And for our 6th episode, I'm delighted to welcome Jacklyn Dallas from Nothing But Tech.
Thanks so much for having me. Also, love that tagline for a podcast. Clutch.
Yeah, I had to play around with the fact that I'm British and sound wrong to everyone outside of the UK.
No, I feel like the British accent is the best accent. Mine's immediate selling point.
Mine's so weird though, because it's British, but it's not from anywhere in Britain. Whereas America, we see it as a generic accent. I don't know, there's southern accents and there's different bits from different coasts, but we kind of see it from the outside as being very kind of homogenous. Even Canadian sounds very similar in a lot of ways. However, in the UK, there's Cockney, and there's Manchester, there's Scottish and Welsh, and it's all in Britain, and it's all so different. We can all pretend to do different accents for bits when we do a joke, but
Which one is your primary accent then, or are you not associated with any of the areas?
Well, that's it. I've travelled around so much. I grew up in the southeast, just by the seaside, by the coast near, just outside of London. But my parents were from Nottinghamshire, Robin Hood country, and I've travelled around a lot, so I've got more of a kind of almost BBC kind of voice where you don't have a regional accent. But it's lovely to have you. Sorry, we've just started talking about my accent as opposed to anything
I need to know.
vaguely related to technology. So yes, welcome. For anyone that doesn't know you, one of the things that I always do at the beginning of these podcasts is a getting to know you. So these are this or that questions, but feel free to go in a third direction if you prefer. So there's not a huge amount of them, but it's quite fun. So we start off with Xbox or PlayStation.
Ooh, I would say Xbox.
Yeah. Do you actually get time to game, or are you very...
I'm the world's worst, to be honest, but I grew up with a lot of friends that had Xbox, so I would be more in that. Although I will say I tried out the PS4, and it was really good. So either one, but I'm more familiar with the Xbox.
Okay, so I was I grew up on Master System from Sega, that far back.
Oh, okay.
And the Mega Drive, which we have over here, which I think you guys called the Genesis, came after that. So yeah, I was always that, and then we had PlayStation when I was a kid, and then I had Xbox as a grown up, and now I don't have time for any of it.
Yeah, no, it's over.
And then Windows or Mac?
Mac.
Okay.
By far, but I started out on Windows. So my first ever computer, and for probably 4 or 5 years, was Windows. But now I use Final Cut, so only Mac.
Final Cut's just the one, right? I think Adobe's great, but the fact they charge you every month for everything, and it can get real expensive, right?
I actually pay for both, which is tragic. So I'm not helping myself at all.
That is upsetting.
But now with M3, Final Cut is so efficient. And also, I think it's just the ecosystem of file transfer, especially for video. If I record something quickly on an iPhone, then I can easily add it to the timeline. On Windows, that would be a little bit less intuitive.
Yeah, I do the same. If I'm doing any sort of B-roll, I tend to just grab my phone and do it. But for my A-roll, I don't even have to airdrop it because I record everything in continuity camera, which is what we're using right now.
Oh.
So this is wireless as well.
That's crazy, actually, because it's so high quality. That, I think, is one of the best features that they've added. It's
super crispy, and I think they've got to have a plan for it to go into the Vision as well, because obviously they've used Sidecar with that a lot, where you're moving between the Mac apps and then using the keyboard and mouse to move over to other apps as well. So I feel like there's going to be something with continuity camera moving into that as well. The next one up is Android or iOS. What's your daily driver?
I use both, so I have 2 phone numbers. So on the iPhone side, it would be the iPhone 15 Pro, and then on the Android side, will be either the S24 Ultra or the Pixel 8 Pro at the moment. Although I'm reviewing the OnePlus 12 right now, so that is the daily. But when I'm not reviewing a phone, it's either S24 Ultra or Pixel.
Gotcha. And if you could only have one?
Oh, dude, I cannot answer that.
It's so hard, isn't it?
I love them both. I feel like that's the most common question. When I tell someone that I'm a tech YouTuber and they're not in our space, the number one question is iOS or Android. In the US, I feel like probably people outside of the US will not relate, but iMessage is such a dominant feature that, especially with Gen Z, if you don't have iMessage, you're kind of isolated out of group chats a lot. So for that reason, I think like iMessage is great and the iPhone, but then Android has so much to offer. And like on the customization front, the camera quality, I honestly couldn't pick. I love them both a lot. So I'm paying for 2 phone numbers every month.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might do a series on customizing for iPhone because I think that might be quite interesting.
Ooh, that is interesting.
And fun to like break up into shorts and stuff as well, which might work well on the other platforms. But
I agree.
yeah. Now I see you're sipping. Are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Dude, cold brew 100% of the time. Yeah. Are you tea because England
God,
or
no.
Oh, whoa,
No, I'm
okay.
very coffee. Like I spent a year living in Dubai, and when I was opening hotels on the Palm over there, and we got like the best coffee training in the world for like making really good espresso from scratch. And since then, I've been a black coffee, no sugar, no sweetener, that kind of
Wait, what's your number one tip? Like, what did they teach you?
It's all about the grind, like making sure that the grind is right first. And basically, as long as your espresso is good in any coffee, you're going to have a really good experience. But you can't hide bad coffee with the rest of the drink, basically.
I agree with that. Yeah, like I love cold brew the most, but I think it's like the hardest one to get right because it's like a 10-hour brewing. So if I'm out and about, I'll often get a latte because I feel like that's harder to mess up. Yeah. Although if the espresso's bad, then it's over. So either one, you kind of need one that's good.
We've got some really good roasteries over here that do nitro cold brew. So it's like basically it pours like a Guinness. But it's so good. I don't know if you guys have that over there yet. I'm guessing you do.
We do. I am not a fan of beer, so nitro is like my worst nightmare because I feel like it's similar to that. But everyone else that I know loves it.
It's like creamy but black coffee. It's super cool. And then the last one, and this might be a tricky one for you because I think you do both of these quite prolifically. YouTube or podcast, if only one could exist.
Oh,
which way
YouTube.
would you go? Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, YouTube's like had my heart since I was like 9 years old. But podcasting is cool too because I think with a podcast, what's really exciting is that if you like post like once a week and it's like an hour long, you could be one of the people that actually like talks to the audience the most, which I think is like such a privilege because we don't really talk to that many people for like an hour period, like in that depth. And so I think podcasting builds like a lot of like emotional closeness with an audience, but YouTube is like the best platform for discovery in my opinion. And also I think having the visual element, especially for tech, is so exciting because you'd be like, hey, like look at this, like this is the new thing. Whereas with podcasting, it's all description.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is still a very new podcast. This is episode 6, so we've not been going for too long, but I think 6 is the average number of episodes that a podcast gets to, and then everyone dies. So
you're now above average. I think you're actually probably top 1% when you get to 8. We're
doing pretty well, so that's cool. We've already got the next one as well. Is all booked in, so we're good. We should at least do 7. But yeah, the YouTube channel for me has been going since like 2020. But how long have you guys been going over there? Like you've been making stuff for a while.
Yeah, I started when I was 13. So it's been 8.5 years, 9 years now. I'm 22, so it's been a minute. But honestly, even before that channel, I was always just like obsessed with YouTube, and it was not my first. Other ones have since been privated, and they were not about tech. I had like a singing channel for a while.
You have to bring this stuff back soon, like for an anniversary.
It's got to like come out of the archives.
Like a reaction video of you reacting to your own videos from when you were younger. That would be amazing.
I think I would die of cringe. No, the first ever video was like a microphone unboxing of a Rode microphone, and I like recorded the whole thing. Actually, my mom helped me record it, and then I decided in post to voice over it, which didn't make any sense because my like hand gestures were synced to what I was actually saying in the moment. And then I tried to voice over to the hand gestures. It was a nightmare. Like this video is like the worst video on the internet. But yeah, I've been doing it a very long time. And I think it's so cool that even like 2020 was pretty early. Like every year I feel like it just evolves more and more and more and gets more and more mature, which is exciting.
And you guys have blown up just recently. I keep saying you guys, it's basically you, right? I know you've got someone else helping film and stuff, but it seems like you do almost all of the editing and scripting.
Recently,
and all that stuff.
I actually just hired an incredible editor.
Amazing.
So exciting. Love him. He's genuinely one of the most talented people I know. And so, yeah, now it's definitely expanding, which is exciting. Because up until, I think I edited 396 videos, and which was basically like the first 8 years of videos. And I still honestly like love editing, but I think when we look at like broader, like what we want to grow this into, spending like 20 hours a week editing was not conducive to growing it. And I was pulling like an all-nighter every week, which honestly I'm happy to do. Like I will do that for growing the channel, but I think I should like devote that time to other things that grow it. And he's awesome. Like Scott is the best. So it's been so much fun. And I also think it's so like when you work with other people, it's really collaborative too. So now the team is like no one is full-time yet, but hopefully this year. But right now it's probably like 3 or 4 people that are very actively involved in the creative, and then people also on the business side that are excellent.
Awesome. And in terms of like the current setup, I know you mentioned your MacBook Pro. You got with the black one, so it's either a Pro or a Max.
Yep,
Which one
it's
did you go for?
M3 Max.
Mm-hmm.
I just got it last week. Loving
Did you go 14 or 16 inch?
16.
Oh,
that was tough though. I always just like the most power. Yeah, but 14 is so much more portable. So it's like pros and cons. I have a MacBook Air that I did a video on recently, so I feel like that's like the one that if I need like slimness and like lightweight, but then when I'm actually editing or working on stuff, then the 16 is so nice.
And it's still so portable. I mean, I still work off the M2 MacBook Air. That's my main machine right now.
Whoa. Okay.
And then I've got Project 91 over here, which is my classic Macintosh that's got an M1 Mac Mini inside and a Retina display. So it's really fun. That's what runs my desktop most of the time. But yeah, M2 MacBook Air is just fully capable of everything I need. I'm like running a 4K display off of it, and that's it's just.
What were
great.
You using before?
So prior to Apple Silicon coming out at all, I have a 27-inch iMac from 2013, which is sitting up here. I was still using that up until 2020. So, yeah.
Nice.
So
yeah, that is one of the coolest things is like how long they last, right? Like the phone, I feel like you upgrade, or at least I upgrade like every year. I think most people upgrade like 2 to 4 years, but the computers really last a long time, which makes sense because they're incredibly expensive. I just got this computer last week, and I think like all spec'd out, it was like maybe $5,000.
Yeah. So
they're definitely quite expensive, but they do have a lot of like longevity, and they enable all the work.
Yeah, and to be fair, that iMac, it was just before they went to the 5Ks. So it's like a 2.5K, I guess. It's like 2460 by 1440. That thing cost me just under $2,000, and it lasted me like 7-8 years nearly.
Whoa. Okay.
That's not
really
bad going. It got some more RAM thrown in the back of it because you could do that back in the day, and I ended up running the operating system off of an SSD hanging out the back. Like it wasn't even an internal SSD.
That's what. Wait. Question: If you had to pick, would you rather the ability to add RAM back, like that feature, or the removable battery feature in phones?
Ooh. So adding RAM to laptops or removable batteries in phones, is that what you're saying? Okay.
Because it used to be like you could just add RAM like to the iMac, and then it also used to be that you could pop out the battery of a phone, like the LG G5.
I would say if you were to be able to switch the batteries in phones, you're going to lose waterproofing, and I think that's more important. I'm happier to go and do like a battery service, but the fact that you can't upgrade RAM at all in a laptop or a Mac of any sort, really, at this point, I think is more of a problem. However, I also think 8 gigs in a MacBook Air, which is what I'm using, is absolutely enough for almost everyone. Like, I know that content creators and the people that talk about it on YouTube need more, probably, but probably don't, because I don't. But there, for everyone else, all of the normal people in the world, you don't need more than that in Apple Silicon. It handles it so well. So I'm surprised that there's as much controversy around the 8 gig thing, even though like a lot of phones are on 12 now.
I know it is crazy that like some of like the Android phones will have like 12, 16 gigabytes, and then the MacBooks don't. But yeah, it also goes to show like it's only part of the story. It's like when a camera is like 200 megapixels, but then it shoots a significantly worse shot than like a 12 megapixel sensor.
Yeah, and like I literally went, and I say this on almost every podcast at the minute. I think I went from using a Lumix G7 camera to using iPhones to shoot because the image was better on the iPhone. The autofocus is the biggest thing for me. Like the fact that it uses LiDAR to focus is so much better than the hunt and peck that I used to find with with the Lumix camera. Like if I put my hand here and then come back out, it's straight back into focus.
You. Yeah.
There's no looking.
I think that's one of the things with the Quest 3. I just did a video yesterday that was like a Quest 3 versus Vision Pro comparison. And I think one of the biggest downfalls of the Quest 3 with the Vision Pro is the pass-through is not nearly as good. And there's like a lot of like parallaxing and distortion. And I think one of the reasons why Apple was able to do it so much better is because they've learned so much about photo and video processing through the phone that just like translating that tech over is infinitely better than Meta, who has like not nearly as much experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Meta's always been a software company. You know, they've always been about the platforms. But I was watching your video actually, and it was the way
thanks.
that you picked your phone up, and like the world around it kept distorting.
Yeah,
it's like
everything's what
moving
is going
around.
on?
It's like,
and you're wearing it,
yeah.
So it feels like now your world is distorted because that's like your only actual. It would be like right now if like all of a sudden like this picture like came flying at me, like it's not a good experience. Also, I was sick the last 2 weeks, like, and I was like stomach virus, etc. And so like motion sickness added another level to it. And this, of course, is like the week that all of the like VR stuff was coming out. So I was going through it. But yeah, the Quest definitely made it. The Quest is amazing for $500. But it definitely made it a little bit worse. And I think that is like one of the reasons why the Vision Pro, like in my opinion, shocks and excited so many people is because when you put it on, it kind of just worked the way you would expect it to work. Whereas the Quest in comparison, I feel like worked the way tech works right now. Like there was the parallax thing. Like I knew I was wearing a headset. It's much easier to forget with the Vision Pro.
Yeah. No, I think what you've just said there, like, basically illustrates the difference between Apple and everyone else in, like, the world. When I first got my first iPhone was the iPhone 4, and I got that in, like, 2010. And before that, I'd had Windows phones. I had, like, the XDA Orbit, which had got, like, sat-nav built in. And I was like, yeah, this is amazing in 2009.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do I need an iPhone? Like, it does all the things. It's got music. I can browse the internet. I can do email. And then I got an iPhone and I was like, oh, it's such. Yeah, oh, I see now why everyone was raving. Like, in terms of VR stuff, like, obviously we don't have Vision Pro yet in the UK. I've got one friend who's brought one over. So fingers crossed it won't be too long.
I want to see
the only
what
one
you think.
yeah, I'm really excited. The only one that I've used is actually this, which I don't think you guys get in the States, which is the Pico.
What is that?
It's the Pico 4. So this is from ByteDance. This is like a TikTok headset, and it's...
is it good?
It's okay. It's not bad. So it's got the pancake lenses, so you haven't got the Fresnel, so you haven't got like the ridging. So it's quite smooth. And it does 90 hertz and stuff like that. It is with handsets. And the only downside to it that I can find is really that the software catalog is quite limited because everyone went to Quest and not to this app store. So there's stuff like the Walk Around Golf, which is great. It's so much fun. And a whole bunch of other games that are really good, but not the games that you see everywhere else. Like there's a really good version of Fruit Ninja. But there's no Beat Saber. And
does a version mean like is it Fruit Ninja or is it like a company
it is actually
that copied?
Fruit Ninja.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think also the difference that I think even comes out between like Quest and Vision Pro is like when I put on the Vision Pro, I'm putting it on and I'm like, okay, like what do I want to do? Whereas when I put on the Quest, it's like I have an intention and then I put it on to do X intention. Like I want to play a game. Vision Pro just feels more like an extension of your life, which I think pros and cons. Like, I wrote a thread about it when it came out where I was like, Gen Z perspective, like I've grown up with tech my whole life. Like I am like very used to always being connected. And so this is incredibly exciting to me and I'm much more optimistic than a lot of people are about tech. But also we've seen the story play out in dystopians like Ready Player One. And I hope we don't get to a point where it's just like a dopamine overload and people are addicted to another device.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I feel the same way about the Vision Pro. It does look like something that you wear throughout your day. And I understand that people are like, oh, but you only get 2.5 hours if you're watching a video. It's like, but you're not going to stand in the middle of your room watching a movie. You're going to sit down and plug yourself in. It's fine.
Agreed.
But when you said about Ready Player One, it made me smile because when that was being filmed, a lot of it was in our city. So I actually saw some of the sets and some of the stuff that was going on and some of the street chases. Is the stuff that was supposed to be in Columbus, Ohio, I think, was cool. Filmed in an area of our city. So I
love that.
It pleased me so much, and I was like running around getting photos.
It's so cool to see the behind the scenes. I think what's also wild about that is that the Vision Pro does a lot of what the tech in that movie did. And like the amount of people that worked in like graphic design and motion VFX to make it look like that in real life in like the movie is pretty wild, considering that now like the Vision Pro, it's like you leave a display over here and then you walk away and it stays motion tracked. Like I still have to do that frame by frame in Final Cut Pro, and the Vision Pro is able to do it instantaneously. And so I think that like a lot of times people don't, I don't know, appreciate like the level of like engineering and hard work that goes into making the tech work that flawlessly.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Apple's been working on this for so long. It's like, I think 2007 were the first patents around it, and it looks very much like Vision Pro. And then you can kind of track all of these things happening through Apple's history. You know, you can see where LiDAR came to the iPad Pro first and then to the iPhones. So they're already getting used to scanning the space that you're in and being able to, even the Clips app that's on everyone's iPhones will do that and be able to track movement into your space. It looks really, really good as well. Like Clips is like an underrated app for Apple.
I agree. Yeah, it reminds me of Taylor Swift's song Mastermind, where it's like, I'm also a huge like Taylor Swift fan, but
who isn't?
Yeah, honestly, who isn't, and I will find a way to work it into every convo. But she, like, in the song, it's like, I was like laying all the like the steps, and now it all came together, and I kind of feel like that's the Vision Pro for Apple. It's like it has a digital crown from the Apple Watch. All the camera tech like plays into the fact that they've gotten so much better with iPhone, so now it's like a 12 millisecond latency. The Vision OS is based on iPad OS. Like, there are so many things where it's like they couldn't make the Vision Pro without doing all these other products first. And I think that that's why it's going to be really hard for another company to make something as great as the Vision Pro this year.
Yeah, that's what people underrate when they talk about the Apple ecosystem stuff. Things like universal control, like incredible bit of technology, which is basically now in Vision OS. If you're bringing your screen from your Mac up, you're then moving your cursor over into these iPad-style apps, and it becomes the iPad cursor as well. Like that's a really clever. We've been trained to use it already.
Yeah, that's another huge point, actually. Yeah, it's like, not only can they do it, but they've also trained us, so it doesn't feel like such a quantum leap. Like, it's like, oh, okay. Like, I have to figure out how to use my eyes as the cursor, but everything else looks and makes sense. Whereas if we didn't have any of those other things that came earlier, then I feel like the learning curve would be so high.
Yeah. What's your biggest ask for the next version? What's the one thing that will bring it up for you?
Less of an isolating experience. I think Marquez just made a video about this yesterday, but the big thing with it is, like, when you're wearing it, you're now living in your own reality that no one else can see. And so when I was filming like the day in life review, I'd like be experiencing things, and then my videographer would have no idea what I was seeing. So I'm like, oh my God, there's a car here right now, or oh, I'm like responding to messages, and there's no ability to share that. I think it'd be really cool. And they kind of already have it where you can like mirror it to a device. So like when I'm giving the Vision Pro to a friend, and I'm like, gotta see this, I'll mirror it to my computer so I can see what they're seeing and kind of guide them through it. And actually, when I was briefed on it by Apple, they did the same thing, because I think it's such a new piece of tech that you kind of need someone to help you learn the controls. But I would say, like, an easier way for people to see what you're seeing, and then also, if they have a Vision Pro, sync to whatever you're seeing, which I think is a harder ask, but it's like, if you and I are in the same room together, can we both be looking at the same thing from our own perspectives? Because it wouldn't be like syncing it where it's like you're seeing what I'm seeing, because then like you would be seeing a different reality. Like, it has to be from your POV. We're just seeing the same thing, which I think is hard to do, but that would elevate the experience a lot.
Yeah, and I think Marquez kind of muddied the water a little bit, probably inadvertently, when he did the video with Cleo Abrams, and they were in the room and they'd got the F1 car in front of them. And I think they were both looking at an F1 car, but it wasn't the same model.
Yeah, they were using the same app.
Yeah.
So it's like, and they had like, because of that, like, it's like the same experience because they're in the room. But what he talks about in his video is like, could it actually be the same car?
Yeah, that's what it needs to be. I think the two Vision Pros would then need to sync to the same model of the room that they dynamically generate.
Yeah, they would have to both generate the room and then sync it, and then know positionally like where you are, and then every like time you move, it would have to like live sync. I mean, it's easy to say that we want this feature. I think the tech to make it happen is so high, because it's basically like creating an exact reality. But I think it's possible, because they're obviously doing something similar now. Like, when in his video also, he shows, he's so talented, but he shows like putting like a window in like the parking lot, and then walking off the right of building, and then looking out to the parking lot, and the window is still right there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that shows like how much memory the device has. So I think it's possible, but it would be difficult.
No, absolutely. And I mean, Marquez is just like on an absolute other level. Like, I was watching a video today from, like, I don't know if it was the TV awards here in the UK or something along those lines, and they'd got a robot arm with the camera on that was doing this one move around a celebrity, and I was like, oh, that's what Marquez has had for the last like 10 years.
100%. Yeah, I remember going to Marquez's like studio maybe when he hit like 5 million subscribers. This has to be like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And even then, like if you watched any of his videos back then and compared them to like videos now by almost any other creator, they would still be better. And I feel like that's just like a testament. Like he's been at the top of the game for so long, and it's just so talented. And then like a great guy on top of everything else.
Yeah, he really does seem to be the nicest guy. And I mean, yeah, like the fact that he's got this huge studio and a huge team around him, and I'm sitting in this little corner of my boiler room, so I've had to turn off hot water to my home so that we don't get interrupted through this podcast. That's the difference these days.
Yeah, I filmed many videos in a garage that was boiling and had a bug issue, so I totally get it.
Yeah, it's good fun though. This is how you roll. You have to be scrappy.
This is a story, yeah.
Absolutely. And so yeah, you did your Quest versus Vision Pro video. Obviously, for $500, the Quest is a completely different proposition. Without spoiling it, like, what was your biggest takeaway from that?
Ooh, okay. The Quest is genuinely fundamentally better for gaming, I think, at least right now, because it has these, which are controllers,
yep.
And that makes a huge difference. The Vision Pro uses your hands, which there was actually a game where it was kind of like Beat Saber, but with your hands, and it was fun. I was like, wow, like I really like this because, again, it feels like the Vision Pro is, for in the future, meant to be like worn and then just left on. And if that's the case, you don't want to travel around with controllers, and you may like serendipitously have 5 minutes and be like, oh, I want to play a game. So it feels like it's a device that then also is gaming. Whereas right now, to me, the Quest feels like a device kind of for gaming, for other things too, but it's like I'd be sitting at home and would say like, oh, I want to play a game, and then throw on the Quest, versus wearing the Vision Pro and then be like, oh, I have a couple minutes, I want to play a game. So that feels like one difference. Another one feels like, I think Marquez in his video said the Vision Pro is like tomorrow's tech today. I think that's a really good way to put it. I think the Vision Pro is tomorrow's tech today, and then I think the Quest is right behind that, like as close as we can come to giving that feeling, but it's definitely today's tech. Like a lot of things don't work as you would assume, like the parallaxing, for example. The fact that its controllers in some ways is actually better than the Vision Pro, like for typing and stuff. The controllers feel so much better, and like I felt like it was a much better typing experience. But then you're holding controllers, so it's easy to remember that you're using a VR headset. It's $500 though, so like they both hit completely different markets. Where I think like if you want VR, the Quest is like a great way to get into it, but if you want to experience like what the future could be, then I think the Vision Pro is the one.
I could see Vision Pro kind of integrating a little bit better with things like Apple Watch, so that this is kind of like an accelerometer controller for
cool
games,
idea,
which would be interesting. And the other thing, I think Apple has got some patents that were around AirTags becoming motion dots, basically, like for motion tracking. So potentially you could have a pair of gloves that have an AirTag on the backs. So you'd wear the gloves, you'd still be able to do the finger tracking, and then you'd also be able to kind of follow where the hands are moving, that sort of stuff. So that might be really interesting. Cool. The other thing that I sort of mentioned in a video I did a couple of days ago was it's difficult to do the pass-through video and be able to read text on the screen of your iPhone. So if that was pairing to your Vision Pro and like basically popped up a larger version of your iPhone display,
that's cool.
That'd be really great. And the same with your watch, just so that it basically pops it up almost like Star Wars, you know, the kind of hologram stuff.
Yeah,
so it just kind of pops out when you need it. That seems like a reasonable kind of stretch for me, because if they're doing it with the Mac displays, that shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, I agree. And I also would like it to sync just in general with the phone. So it's like if you're getting a call, it can go through. Because right now, if you're getting a call, you would have to like pick up your phone because it doesn't naturally sync the same way it does with the Mac. And that feels like very easy.
So FaceTime would come through and you'd be able to use your persona, but not with like a regular voice call right now.
Regular phone call, I don't think just actively passes through. It almost like treats it as like its own device, but then on the Mac it does. So I think like it should be an easy addition. And maybe like pair them.
Yeah.
I will say it very intuitively knows to pair to my hotspot. Like when I'm out and about and I don't have, because it needs Wi-Fi, it doesn't have cellular, it will be like pop up and be like, do you want to connect to Jacklyn's iPhone? And I think that is like a quality of life. Like I actually noticed in the video with the Quest, it was much less intuitive to like quickly set up Wi-Fi, whereas on the Vision Pro, I just like popped up the screen, type information in, hit join, it was easy.
Yeah, I had to hotspot with the Pico as well, because I was actually I was sent this for a sponsorship, so we did like a six video series. But it culminated as I was at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix in the middle of a field.
Whoa.
So like from my tent, I was like filming my last one and trying to kind of record stuff. And Oh, it was an absolute nightmare to try and
Yeah, it
do it
sounds a
all.
little stressful, but it also sounds like it makes a sick video.
Oh yeah, it was a really fun place to be for all of this
Yeah.
stuff. Cool. So I just want to sort of touch a little bit on your crazy last year that you've had as well. So like the stuff that I've put down as notes, right? And there's
Okay.
probably so much more than this. Working with YouTube, evangelizing AI for creators. You went to the White House. You went to CES. You've had Samsung events. You've been to Apple Park, I think, for Dub Dub.
Yep.
So you probably got to try out Vision Pro a little bit early there, did you? Or I don't know if you got
tried
to
it out
play
early
with
in New York,
Okay.
but not at WWDC.
But like, how have you gone from like? I heard about you when I first started. Like, I knew that you existed, and I'd seen a few of your videos. But this last year, you have been everywhere. How has that been for you?
Ooh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a super exciting year. I feel like really like genuinely very blessed that so many people at YouTube kind of just believe in what we're doing. So they opened up like the opportunities to talk about AI. I hosted a dinner with them too. They just launched a like creator collective series where in every city they pick like one creator to host a dinner, and we hosted their first one in New York. That was so much fun. So I think it's like the culmination of like I've genuinely never worked harder in my life. Like I am working so many hours, but like loving every minute of it. Really like blessed that there are so many people that believe in what we're doing, both at YouTube, but then also at like the companies, whether it be like Google or Apple or anyone that kind of enables the opportunities, because I feel like you have to put in the work, but then you also need access of like someone believing in it and then saying yes. Like every successful person I feel like has a million people behind them that have said yes and like took a bet on them. And then I also think like just like time and market, like I've been doing this so long, like it's been 8 years. And so I think there have definitely been periods of time where like things were not as momentum, like there wasn't as much momentum, and it's just like sticking with it and like going brick by brick. Then I think like the third thing is also the team. Like everyone that is working on MBT stuff is genuinely brilliant and so hardworking, and I think it kind of takes a village to do anything in life. So yeah, it's been such an exciting year, and just excited to keep like doing the two formats really that we're focusing on now are these like real day in life reviews where a new piece of hardware comes out and then I use it out and about. And the reason for that honestly was like as tech becomes more iterative, I think the exciting story is how it actually impacts your life. And also I think that Marquez is incredible and best in class, and I don't think that you can become like the next best creator by just doing the same thing. So it was like, how do I make it different? And then the other format that we're really actively pursuing is interviewing these tech CEOs.
Yeah.
Like the pipeline is like interview the tech CEO and then review what they make. And I think that that's another thing that people in the space aren't really doing. And I also just like love interviews. So this is like we're hyper focusing on trying to like create something for people that love tech that they're not getting anywhere else.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and that's I guess that's why I've kind of created this, as opposed to the way that a lot of the other podcasts work. Is it's either the same people every week, or it's you know, it's either one person or it's the same people every week, or it's just about the technology and just about a specific thing. And I think being able to talk to tech creators specifically, because we all kind of work in the same area a little bit.
Totally.
My journey has been so different from yours, because mine started in COVID and I was doing 5 videos a week doing tech.
Holy
like just
wow.
Yeah, so I was just doing Apple News every day. But one of the
That's
big things
incredible.
that I focused on early on is community, because I was already working with Gary V as a sort of community moderator.
Yeah.
So I was looking after a lot of the Facebook group stuff and answering all the comments. And so that's the big thing that I focused on. And that's something that has really stood out from what you do as well, is the amount of community videos that you do where you'll just literally just turn on the camera on Instagram and just do a like 30 seconds of, hey, this is what I'm doing. I hope you're all having an amazing day. And that makes a massive difference. And you do really respond to a lot of comments from your audience. And, you know, you answered my DM, so that's a start.
No, dude, you're amazing. How could I not answer your DM? But yeah, dude, that's like one of the most fun parts. Like I think when I started YouTube, I like didn't have any friends that love technology. Like it was, I would be like the person that my friends would text to find out about a keynote, but like it was not talking for hours about tech. And then I uploaded my first video and immediately unlocked this whole world of people that love technology too. And so I think like a huge driver for me is like, can we create like this wholesome tech community where people that can finally find a group of people that also love this thing that they love. In the same way that YouTube gave that to me and gives that to me. And then I also just like, I think it's like so fun and exciting to get to talk to the people that kind of enable the career and also care about the same things that you care about. So it's like, the easiest thing in the world for me to care about community, and I think it's one of the things that a lot of creators don't care as much about, which is honestly pretty surprising to me because it's like such a fun, exciting thing, and I think it's really baked into like A, what YouTube wants its creators to care about, and like B, like the overall ecosystem of YouTube is so community driven, whether it be like the comment section or like the fact that when you post something in real time you can see the viewership. Like I think there's so many kind of indicators that community matters, and it would be really cool if more creators focused a lot on it. But it's definitely for me, it's one of the favorite things. And I know for you too, like you obviously worked with Gary, and I think he's one of the best creators at focusing on community.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's made such a difference for me. Like when I finished my first year, I guess, of doing the daily show, the 5 days a week show, daily-ish.
That's insane.
You know, take weekends off.
I think you could say daily, 5 times a week.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close, right? But I actually managed to get on a call with Gary just for like 10 minutes, and I was like, right, how do I celebrate this? And he was like, well, if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, I would say do like a meetup, get people together. I was like, well, audiences all over the world anyway. They said the other thing would be to do a really long live stream. So I think we did 12 hours.
Whoa!
12-hour live stream, but I approached so many creators. People like John Prosser came on, Luke Miani,
I love that
Brian
idea.
Tong, and a whole bunch of like smaller creators from the UK and from other countries. Like we had people from the Philippines coming on and all doing just like 15 minutes with me. So it was really, really fun.
That's a really cool idea.
Got to speak to a whole bunch of people, brought a whole bunch of new audience in as well. And I think we had 3,000-4,000 subs by that point, which was after the first. No. Sorry, we hit monetization after like 3 months.
That's quick.
Which was but it was pandemic. Nobody had got anything else to do, so everyone was watching YouTube, and then we got to 10K I think after about a year. So it was just, I think we were about 6 to 7K, and then I've done nothing since. So
okay,
just
we're
really
gonna get back to it. Yeah.
Plateaued. That's why we've brought this back. Like full-time job, family, all that sort of stuff does take up a lot of time. So I'm down to like 2 or 3 videos a week now.
I still think that's honestly a ton. I've never posted 2 or 3 videos a week. That's a lot.
But mine are a lot less produced than yours. Mine is teleprompter, me, iPhone.
That's still
microphone.
So impressive. And honestly, I feel like that creates like an intimate level of connection, because if someone's watching that, then it's like they're hanging out with you.
Yeah.
In like a sit down way.
Yeah, and it's still answering every comment on the videos, and we do the iCave answers section as well. So we'll do the 3 news stories, and then we'll answer the comments questions. So it becomes a part of it. So it's been really fun for me. But yeah, just the community side that you guys have been doing is just absolutely blowing everyone else out of the water. And I think that is a huge applause to you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, dude, it's just so much fun. Like, I think it's the best.
Absolutely. I don't want to take too much more of your time. So where can people find you online? Unless you've got anything else you want to like hit on. Like, is there anything else? This is so much fun.
This has been like a highlight of my day. You're amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm down to come back anytime. I'm so excited to like watch this show. If anyone wants to check out the channel, it's Nothing But Tech on YouTube. Twitter and Instagram are NBT Jacklyn, and the podcast that I was doing, if you want like more tech combos, the Digital Dive.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Amazing to have you on. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
A complete revolution. We figured out a way. We machine all of the surfaces to create something that's genuinely new. You have to start again. Unapologetically plastic. Aluminium.